be it resolved.
Here we are with Be It Resolved, and this is our weekly podcast. We think we've got a pretty good topic for you here today. We're going to be arguing, be it resolved, that driverless cars are the way of the future, and that's a good thing. So there you go. Now, I'm going to be arguing for this, pro side. My name is Andrew Wood. Sarab Sandhu is going to be on my side. Sarab, can you give, there you are.
Welcome.
And arguing against this, trying to argue against this, is my good friend Mario Karakides and Al Brown. Okay, so the way we're going to set this up with 2-minute arguments to set our opening positions each, and then we'll have a round robin where we'll mix it up a little bit, and then we'll end with some concluding thoughts. So gentlemen, do try to keep your opening remarks to about 2 minutes. And since I am pro, and I'll take it first from here, be it resolved that driverless cars are the way of the future. And that's a good thing. Well, there's actually 2 propositions here. They are definitely the way of the future. And I hope my my opponents on the other side will have the decency to concede that much at least, because the whole world is going internet, and the whole world, every little thing we own, your hairbrush will have a little digital sensor in it that will, analyze your follicles and how fast your hair is falling out. Your shoes will have a little sensor in them, and they'll tell you when they're worn out and they need to go to the repair shop. But not to mention our transportation here, and that is a given. So it is coming. So the issue is, of course, to turn it towards the best and towards making the best of it. And I think the benefits are enormous. We're no longer going to be a slave to the cars that own us. Car ownership will be a thing of the past, because it's not a car that you need to own. What you need is transportation. So with the smart vehicle revolution that's coming, you don't need to keep the car in your garage with unused, let's face it, the majority of the time. You don't need that expense. You don't need the insurance, none of that. You can call it up when you need it. And the system will deliver a car to your driveway on time, every time, and take you where you need to go. Now, undoubtedly, there will be hiccups. Undoubtedly, my esteemed opponents will come up with some reasons why there might be some considerations that should be worrisome. And you know what? I'm going to give them those considerations right off the bat. But here's my point, is that we will work past all the hitches and the glitches and hackable and all those kinds of things. People leaving their Tim Hortons cups in the seat when you want to pick up the car next. But you know what? Overall, this is the way we're going. It's going to be safer. It's going to save energy. It's going to deliver people where they need to go much, much quicker than before. And altogether, it's a wonderful thing. Okay, well, that's my opinion. And I will pass the microphone along to Mr. Karakides, who I believe is going to argue the opposite.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, and hello, everybody. And definitely, I am arguing against this principle. And yes, you know what? I will concede the fact, and I'm sure Al will also concede the fact, that it is the way of the future. That's not the argument, though. The argument is that we have to focus on is whether or not it's practical, whether or not it works in long term, and what the effects will have in our society in general. And when you look at the change that will have to happen, one of the things that you will notice is that people will lose a lot of their autonomy. They will lose their ability to go where they want to, because they're going to have to wait for that car to arrive whenever it does arrive. And you're going to have to order that car. And what if you have a lot of people that need that car, or there's not enough cars? Then will you be able to go to do your grocery shopping when you want to? You see, these are all things that we have to start considering as part of it. Now, one of the things that we have as a benefit of having our own cars these days is the ability to drive and to have a skill set that can take us to where we want to go, but also to allow us to enjoy the pleasures that come with driving. And there's no doubt that driving a car has certain pleasures. And many times people define themselves with the car that they have. Now, is that something that is going to be important 100 years from now? Perhaps not. But I got to tell you right now, as we go towards a transition, losing the driving skill set is a problem. And in fact, when you look at airlines that have now using airplanes that self-land, pilots, and especially with Korean Airlines 214 in San Francisco, it crashed because the pilots didn't know how to land a 777. They depended on automation so much. So there are things that we have to be very careful about. And hacking is definitely a problem. People will be able to take over your car. There is no way to fireproof your car completely without having hacking issues. We've seen this in government. We see it in electrical grids. We see it everywhere. So there are certain problems, Big Brother watching as well. Now, we're going to get into that later on, but I will leave it at that right now.
Okay, well, thank you for those arguments, Mario. Very good. And now, Mr. Sandhu, can you make your arguments for in 2 minutes or so?
Yes, thank you. And thank you all listeners. Now, there's one point I want to counter your this thing, is that you will have to have so many cars and there won't be enough cars. I think these cars will be owned by the person. Why should they be all approved? So everybody's, now you're buying a car that happens to be autonomous. And moreover, the biggest point of having those cars is they reduce the road accidents, which are now caused mainly because of human error. And if you have those cars floating by, you will have less collisions and less insurance claims and all those things. So now this is going to happen, and it's now they've taken a rocket to the Mars, and it comes back and lands on a platform. Now that's quite a big feat. So now they're working on all those sensors, which will tell you to go with the artificial intelligence. It's going to tell you whether it's safe to go right and wrong. This whole autonomous program is being perfected. And once it's perfect, there's no stopping. The other cars will be a thing of the museum, later on. Okay, this car, you can drive it. This doesn't have a computer controlling it. And with this new Sky-Fi, where they have these many internet from the satellite coming there, this will become more and more possible that the accuracy of drive and the safety is maintained. That's going to happen. So back to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Saurabh. Now, wrapping up our constructive arguments, we have Al Brown to argue for the con side. Al.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, I think I can sum up my argument in one sentence. It's the law of unintended consequences. We're talking about here a new technology that's going to come along and replace what's going on right now. And we've seen the consequences of that in the past. There has been, say 50, 60 years ago, the participation of people within community groups was very high. Then came along television and then internet. If you're ever involved in group activities, you'll know that people just are losing those skills. They're losing their skills to write. They're losing the skills to talk coherently, particularly if you've ever tried to argue with some people on Facebook. They come across as functionally illiterate. And same thing's going to happen with our driving skills. We tend to promote systems like this, new technologies, as if they're going to improve everything, but they tend to cause their own problems. I'll give you an example that I know of. Back about 15 years ago, I purchased, or leased actually, I say, a BMW. It was a 325. And I was able to get as much as 10 kilometers per liter from gasoline. And more recently, about 6-7 years ago, I got another BMW after having something else for a while. And I found that the car had a lot more features in it, you know, these brakes that recover energy and more fuel efficient systems, etc. But the fuel economy overall was worse.
Of course.
And this, I think, is one of the things that's going to happen with this technology. We're going to find out after it's installed that it isn't working well. Another glaring fault with this technology, as I see it, is that if everybody doesn't use it, there's going to be glitches in it. It's either an all or nothing proposition. If people are going to be driving around on the roads without this technology, they're the ones that are going to be causing the accidents and reducing the efficiency of the overall system. We simply can't expect the system to perform as well as it should. And that is where I will conclude my arguments right now.
Well, thank you, Al, and you've made good arguments. Now we're going to go into a round a little less formal here, and you're welcome to break in when you like. But you know what? I'm going to start it off by remarking, Saurabh, you and I are already ahead because our opponents seem to be conceding the first part of the proposition that driverless cars are the way of the future. So now you and I, Saurabh, just have the second part of the proposition to maintain, and that it's a good thing. You know what? It's coming, okay. And I will concede the law of unintended consequences. Things are going to happen, but we're talking about time. Time takes care of these, and the energy that the engineers and the software people are going to put into it. These things will be fixed. And the other thing which you're ignoring, Mr. Brown, when you talk about the law of unintended consequences, is the law of unintended benefits as well. And of course, those are many, and those are going to multiply. So it's going to—
Well, Andrew, I have to object to you on this on 2 points. Firstly, we haven't conceded that driverless cars are the way of the future. We've only acknowledged that the technology will be there and likely be in every vehicle. Whether people want to use it or not is up to them. And if I had a vehicle that had this autonomous technology in it, I would turn it off.
You're a dinosaur, Mr. Brown.
My own car.
Yeah, but you're a dinosaur. If you look it up in the dictionary, you know, I mean, I take time. It's going to have the name Al Brown beside that word, dinosaur.
Well, thank you very much. But you know what? I enjoy driving. I enjoy the pleasure of driving across the country. And if I'm going to do that, I want my hands on the wheel and my foot on the energy source, shall we say, not the gas pedal anymore, but the energy source, because we're going to be going electric at the same time as we go autonomous. And I want that pleasure. I want the windows down, the wind in my hair, or maybe not so much hair, but I want the pleasure of driving.
Let's hear from Saurabh.
So I want to take you to sea now, out at sea. Something to do with the same autonomous driving ships. They are already existing. They have proven themselves. Everything is fine. And there you can have all the wind you want if you want to be there. All the wind is blowing there. There's nothing there. And they go from one port to the another port without anybody on board. It's been controlled from ashore. So they have already perfected the safety features and all that. But having said that, I want to make one point clear. Even everything, all the unintended consequences have gone away. It's working fine. There should be, you should realize that if the virus comes, it's not only for the cars, it's for other stuff. If a virus comes or some corruption takes place, then what happens? People don't know how to drive and they're on auto driving car. Everything comes to a standstill. Though it is against you, but this is the consequence one has to be worried about.
Well, no, we're not going to know how to drive. Perhaps we don't know how to drive horses anyway. I've never ridden a horse in my life.
Well, let me get in here because I you know what, I've been listening to you guys talking, and it makes me laugh because the concession about whether or not it's coming in the future is not an issue. Okay, and you know, it's not an issue. Technology is not the issue. Technology will develop, right? It's whether or not we as human beings would want to do this, and beyond that, what we will gain out of this new technology. And I got to tell you something, the losses are going to be much more. Now, let me just revert back to Al Brown. What happened to Al Brown a few seconds ago when he was talking to us? He had a lag, right? His screen froze for a few seconds and he was basically lagging. What if that happens when your car is driving? Oh, we got 5G, we're going to be okay. Well, wait a minute. What if the capacity is not there for the cars to be able to be connected on GPS or wherever it is? What happens to the car? Do you go off the 401 into an embankment, or do you go off the Gardner, being in the fact that we're in Toronto?
What if? I mean, give me a break with this. What if? They're not going to.
It
They're
is
not going
a
to.
definite problem.
Yeah, well, they're not going to bring it out until those problems are solved. Clearly, they're not just going to bring it out next Tuesday or a week from next whatever. No, they're going to have these things tested, and they'll bring it out bit by bit, and they'll bring it out as it's safe. Will there be glitches? Sure, there'll be glitches. Will some people die?
What happens if everything is set up? Everything is set up. Everything is working fine, and some villain, like in James Bond, takes control of the satellites and makes everything go haywire. Forget about the cars. You can't draw anything from the bank. Everything is related with the internet is going to stop. Petrol pumps, everything stops. Even you can't buy food.
How do you
Governors
save
will stop.
people?
So that's
How do you save people when they're having sex in the back seat? Because they don't have to drive the cars anymore.
There
right?
you go.
No,
Sex in the back seat is, I will concede that point to you. You know what? Certainly sex in the back seat. I forgot to make that argument. And of course, I'm arguing pro. There you go. You can have sex in the back seat without any fear of the consequences. But let us move now. Yeah, no.
It's a pro?
Well, that's a pro. Are you kidding? That's a major pro. I'm not a teenager anymore, but if I was still a teenager and I'm in a driverless car with a young lady, I mean, the possibilities are endless. In any case, no. We got to wrap things up. So I'm going to go to, let me start with our second negative first there, Al. I'm going to give you your closing statement. Try to keep it to about a minute.
Well, I think I'll try and be shorter than that. I can see that these things will be around. They'll become, these systems will become commonplace on the cars built into them. You won't be able to buy a car without them. But personally, I would not want to use them because of what I feel, the erosion of my mind and the loss of pleasure in my vehicles. I will concede, though, that I will use one of these if I'm out with my friends and I have one for the road and another for the ditch and I want to get home without driving under the influence charge.
Okay,
So let's see what happens.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brown, for conceding a major point in our favor. Let me pass it along to Sarab. Sarab, your final thoughts on this?
All I'm saying is this is going to come and it is already there. It's taking a little time to perfect the technology, and there'll be a lot of changes because all the drivers which are accompanied, they're employed, it'll be very good news for the people who own those vehicles and they don't have to pay those drivers, but they'll be out of the job. So but nonetheless, this is going to be here and it's going to go into a car which even flies. Flying cars are coming too, which will be autonomous.
There you go. There's another debate for us down the line. Flying cars, cool. Okay, well, Mario, what do you think?
Well, I'll piggyback on what Sarab said with flying cars, because I noticed that you guys didn't even tackle the argument that I made about pilots and airplanes not knowing how to land a 777 and crashing their aircraft in San Francisco because they lost the skill sets that required to fly an aircraft manually. They depend on automation. And that is the major key. Human behavior, human lack of knowledge and loss of technique to be able to recover from a potential glitch that may happen. Is it an issue? Absolutely, it is an issue. It is an issue of transition to be able to get to the fully autonomous world that you guys are proposing. And that is a problem because if people lose their skills, there will be a lot of deaths. And you just can't overcome that by just wishful thinking that technology will just save everybody. Sorry, folks, your argument falls apart.
No, I must say that with the Airbus A380, it's safer to land by the computer rather than the person when they can land in fog, which normally is not possible if you can't see the
They
runway.
landed short of the runway and they crashed right into the edge of the runway, and a lot of people got killed. Because
Okay,
No,
well,
but
look,
every time they are landing every day. The Airbuses on the fly-by-wire.
okay. Well, let me wrap this up with the final thing here. And Mario and Al, I'm perfectly willing to admit, and I'm not going to argue otherwise, that there are glitches which are inevitable, and that driver error, pilot error that you talked about. Okay, yeah, we can concede all of those things, but you know what? This is where the world is moving to. The benefits are going to be enormous. Yes, it's not necessarily going to be smooth. I will insist, though, that they're not going to roll out these things as fully autonomous until they're ready to do so and until the system has been tested. But once that happens, think 10 years down the road, 20, 50 years down the road, literally down the road. And by then, the networks will be in place and the protocols will be in place and society will be utterly transformed, and it will be transformed for the better. We will not be sacrificing our cities to these huge networks of roads that we currently have. We will not have to deal with all of these parking lots, vast parking lots, which are mostly unused, the paved over city. And it's just, you know what? There is a utopia coming. And part of that utopia is going to be framed by our driverless cars. Yes, it will. Okay. Give yourselves a hand. You argued well. Everybody argued well. Okay.
But what happens when you have an EMP from the sun? Electromagnetic pulse.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Utopia, man. It's utopia. His argument is utopia. Nothing else.
okay, well, this is the point where the audience weighs in and they get to judge, you know, who won this debate. It's too bad we don't have a live audience to do that. But you know what, people listening, we're certainly glad you're here with us. Give us your opinion, you know, put it in the comment section. We'd love to get the feedback. And we've so much enjoyed doing this for you. I'm not sure what we're going to be debating next week. Have we discussed that, or should we just leave that as a mystery?
We'll leave it as a mystery at this point.
Okay.
Now,
But
Well,
join us back.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure. Be it resolved.
Big result.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe so you do not miss another episode. Thank you.